oh, there's two faces. Oh, there's some faces right here. And oh, there's a face right here and two more here. They're all over this thing. And so the lion's face is made up also of very many faces as a decent example of pareidolia.
Hey, what's on the scene? Norma Jean. Welcome to a Thursday Collection Connection, where we're playing a game. It's just an excuse to talk about records. If you're anything like me, you were sick for about a day and a half and have spent now the last 8 to 10 days getting over being sick. Not necessarily feeling sick, but draining. And I got to the point where I'd blown my nose so many times, wiped my mouth, that I irritated my lip, caught the lip irritation with my thumbnail, and now I have this gross scar on my lip. So that's exciting, but we're going to press on nonetheless. I play the game with my brother, Plastic Eric, who's over on the Plastic Soundwave Cults channel, and he plays or shows an album every Monday. I show one every Thursday, and the connective tissue is that the album that we show has to relate to the album shown in the previous video. And we just go back and forth and have a little fun talking about records. So in Eric's last video, he showed the first Santana album, just called Santana. His video came up a little late. I didn't have a ton of time, a lot of turnaround on this. So I didn't listen to the entire thing. I was surprised by the first track. Is it called Waiting, I think? That Latin percussion, very prominent. Organ, very prominent. Guitar, not all that prominent. It felt like there were a few licks, and that was about it. It subverted my expectations somewhat. I thought it would be the kind of album that would be, 6 songs long and 45 minutes. But it's kind of full album's worth of 3 to 4.5 minute songs. And I guess in that sense, surprised me a little bit. Probably still never going to be my thing, but, to each his own. And I knew it was going to be difficult because the 60s in general aren't necessarily my thing. I don't have a ton of stuff from before I was born. It feels like borrowing somebody else's culture to a degree, so it never speaks to me in quite the same way, or rarely speaks to me in quite the same way. So I felt like it was going to have to be a fairly superficial connection. I was looking at something with the vowels, the fact that there's only one vowel multiple times, Santana. But I couldn't find another example that I felt really good about. Something like Bananarama or Alabama or something like that, or even something that had 3 occurrences of a different band or a different vowel, I should say, like Squeeze, except that has a U in it, but it does have 3 E's. But none of them felt like quite the thing. So I actually looked into the record a little bit, and I saw that credited on the Santana album as guests was the band Tower of Power. It's kind of a horn section, horn-based band that was getting started about the same time as Santana was getting started. They came out of Oakland, and I guess Santana was also out of the Bay Area, if I'm remembering right. But California. They guested on the first Santana album. More than that, I don't know. I didn't have a ton of time to do research. But I know they've put out many albums themselves, but have also served as sort of a horn section for hire and appeared on many, many recordings by many artists. And so I thought, well, maybe I'll have something fairly disparate, kind of far away from Santana. And the only one that I had, it falls apart a little bit under scrutiny, but at least on Discogs it was listed as Tower of Power, guesting on the 1989 album by Michelle Schacht, called Captain Swing. And the more I looked into it, it was really a couple of members, it looked like, and not founding members of Tower of Power. Tower of Power is a band that has gone through just an assload of band members, sort of just a constant. There's I think 2 who have been there the whole time, and a third guy who had been there for a long time, and then he quit a few years before he passed on in the 21st century at some point. But it was really, as far as I could tell, only 2 guys, both non-founding members, who play their instruments here on this. I've already forgotten their names. I'm trying to make quick work out of this. Let me see if I can get their names. It is good old Lee Thornburg and I believe Steve Grove are the two members of Tower Power who appear on this album. And on the album liner notes, the Tower Power is not mentioned anywhere that I saw, just them by name. But they were in Tower Power at the time that this was recorded in 1989. So that's my connection. The album itself, I know that Michelle Shocked in the 2010s has become a little bit of a controversial figure. She had fallen off my musical radar pretty early on, kind of with the album after this. I think it's called something Traveler, Tennessee Traveler, something Traveler. But she had gone very quickly from kind of a very folky type, folk singer, with her first real studio album, Short, Sharp, Shocked, kind of falling into that sort of folk, semi-protesty kind of category. Just kind of a singer-songwriter, acoustic singer-songwriter, into this, Captain Swing, which takes on a variety of genres, oddly not super including swing, but Street Corner Ambassador is a very super jazzy kind of flipping out thing. It's a great song. And Silent Ways is one of my favorite lyrics of all time. It's just such a clever lyrical conceit. As the chorus goes, silence is golden and words are made of lead. And in the alchemy of love, some things are better left unsaid. Which I think is just such a genius way to play with the words. On the greener side was the song that I think even got nominated for some things. Was a single. Again, not very swing to me, but I found the songs on this album very accessible, even though they jumped around a lot stylistically. I think it's a good record, and I think Short, Sharp, Shocked was a good record. But the follow-up to this got very sort of bluegrassy and didn't feel like straight country most of the time, but sort of all the variants that you think of when you think of country music. And it just didn't do it for me. And so I kind of stopped listening to her at that point, and that was in the mid-90s. So I have the two albums. She had her first album called the Texas Campfire Tapes, which was recorded literally around a campfire, her singing songs around a campfire. Was released without her permission. Well, not without her permission, but they said that they were going to release it whether or not they had her permission. So she struck some sort of bargain there. But Short, Sharp, Shocked was her real debut in spirit. This was her second album, Captain Swing, and everything that's come out after that either didn't like or just haven't heard. So you can look up the controversies about her if you feel like it from the 2010s. I don't know that if it's Much Ado About Nothing, but I know she is born again and has espoused some viewpoints, but has also said that she was not actually espousing those viewpoints, and rather than try to work it all out here and now and look at the old work that I enjoyed, that I had enjoyed for 20 years through the lens of something that happened in 2011, 2013, something like that. I just don't want to do that. So I still like this. I think Short, Sharp, Shocked is probably the better album. It's got Anchorage on it, which is a fantastic, it's like an all-timer, great song. But I really like Captain Swing, and I'm going to try and actually keep it short for once. So I will throw it over to Eric. And he can have his turn at Michelle Shocked's Captain Swing from 1989, which featured members, at least, of the Tower Power, who also featured on Santana's debut album way back in 1969, 20 years earlier, or 68, something like that, 2 decades earlier. Blah, 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 blah. That's all I got. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.